Hi, so we're at Grady High School where we recently did some drainage work. What we're looking at here is a courtyard where the students kind of have lunch and gather in all these benches around. There's various seating areas. What was happening here before is all of this water slowly making its way. You know, we've got lots of roof surface, we've got lots of hardscaped surface, concrete surfaces. It's all making its way to this point right over here, where it was then creating an erosion gully that was about 2 feet deep and 3 feet wide, going down that hill, bringing with it lots of topsoil and subsoil and sediment, and making its way into the amphitheater during heavy rains, where there's just a lot of mud in the amphitheater. The amphitheater is actually graded back in toward the hillside, so that creates an issue with the mud just sort of stagnating and not having anywhere to go. So Grady PTSA, the Parent Teacher Student Association, hired us to start to work with this drainage here and come up with creative solution to infiltrate the water, to stabilize with useful plantings, and to create space where the students can still gather, you know, not taking away from the amount of space, because this is a main gathering point for students. So I'm gonna walk you through over here kind of what we did, our approach. And I'll show you in this clip, I'll show you some before and after photos and also our design so you can kind of orient. But basically, this was one place where a lot of water is gathering. And this is just the first phase of work. You can still see that there's a lot of sediment here that's washing down hillsides, coming down from above. So in the next phase, when we actually get to the planting, which we haven't done yet because it's not the season, we'll work on stabilizing the soil up above. But to start, we were just working with what's happening with the water. So we put in this drain at one of the low spots. There's also another low spot kind of between those benches and that beautiful rock statue. So what we did is we took both of those drains, dropped them in the low places, tied them together into a French drain and a pipe that run along this cobble edge here. So we built the cobble edge to keep the water from running into this area, and we built the grade up a little bit. What was happening before is this was getting really trampled, so it was really compacted and all graded toward the cobble edge, and then this sidewalk was sloped, or is sloped, toward this mulched area. So basically what was happening is we were just getting, that was one place where a lot of sediment was washing out and it was super compacted, so nothing was infiltrating. So what we did is we graded this area so that it drains toward, there's a French drain in here that ties into a rain garden down below, or the second basin. And then we fluffed this soil, added 57 stone gravel to create some infiltration, and added a geogrid stabilizer here, which you can kind of see beneath. This is just a flexible grid that helps hold the mulch in place. We decided to go with a rubber mulch for this project. So this is made from recycled rubber. It's pervious, so it's allowing for some infiltration, and it's stable. They're not gonna have to replace it as much as wood chip. So they wanted a surface where the students could still play and gather and hang out and eat lunch and do all the things that they do. So then we took this pipe and ran it all along this curb on the inside of the bed. So this is now all graded toward either here or there to that drain. This where you're seeing the straw, that's buckwheat, which is a summer cover crop. This was just installed a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, so it's just starting to germinate. What we're doing here is we're just starting to decompact and prep the soil for a fall planting. So that's this bed here, and then around that tree over there, and then on the downhill side of this earthwork over here. So all of this, back to the rainwater, all of this water runs into pipes here, and then we cut through this slab. The pipes go under the sidewalk here. This ended up being about 12 inches thick, which is always a surprise. we busted up that concrete and we used it as riprap. So this actually is a full-on infiltration basin at the top of the slope here. So at this point, the grade switches, so the water is starting to shed from this sidewalk into here. Ultimately, all of the water was making its way to that corner over there where the cobble ends. And there's also a drain that terminates right there. So what we did is we dug out under the surface, we dug out about 2 to 3 feet in this whole area. So it's all graded underground back toward a drain here, but it's allowing for several thousand gallons of infiltration into the ground at the top of the slope. And we've got these really beautiful established pond cypresses, which love the water. So this is actually really great for the root system to have this water and what would be an otherwise dry hillside. Then there's drains underneath that go down to an existing stormwater infrastructure once this whole basin is filled. And then what we did is we put riprap, which is big gravel aggregate, so there's a lot of void space for water infiltration, and then we backfilled with smaller riprap. This is 57 stone granite. And then on top of that, we put the geogrid stabilizer and the rubber mulch. So this whole thing is pervious and allows the water to infiltrate. And then over here, we also built up this granite cobble edge on the backside to create an edge and a container for the rain garden to differentiate the space a little bit. In the future phase, so this is fully, what's interesting about this is it's fully pervious. It's because of the geogrid stabilizer and the aggregate inside, children, or the students, they're not children, they're high schoolers, can walk on this without it compacting, so it doesn't take away, even though we're infiltrating, it doesn't take away from their space. You know, this is where they hang out. So we wanted to maintain that in a creative way. And then in the future planting, this top of the cobble will be on the earthen side, will be planted, and then there's a basin down below which we put in place right by that pond cypress to capture any overground water and allow it to settle instead of infiltrating or not infiltrating, what's the word I'm looking for? Going through the stone wall there, the block wall where the amphitheater is. And then we backfilled, we used all of this dirt that we excavated, and we backfilled this section that was fully a full erosion gully. So that is what we did. And then the next phase, we're gonna be planting this and planting that and beautifying it. But I think the big takeaway here is that working with gravity and the flow of water, you can, you know, really strategically meet your goals and allow water to infiltrate and build the soil and stabilize the soil. Yeah, with a pretty effective and not very heavy-handed approach.